I'm Ekta Grover, and welcome to M2TVXT1, a Motorcycling 2 TV production. This show is not just about motorcycles. It's about the places, the events, the enthusiasts, the people on the bikes, the industry and the manufacturers of these high-powered two-wheelers. In this segment, we'll be covering the history of the motorized bicycle, now known as the motorcycle. The first motorcycle was a steam propulsion two-wheeler created by Sylvester Howard Roper in 1867. A few years later, in 1869, he created a charcoal-fired two-cylinder engine. These motorized bikes were known as the bone crushers. They get their very fitting name from their ancestral prototype, the push bike, which functioned without pedaling and was propelled by the rider's feet pushing against the ground. These bone crushers were made out of wood and iron-banded spokes. So they're not the most comfortable ride, and definitely not the safest, as they tended to toss their riders. Not the most comfortable for those ladies riding side saddle. So back to motorcycle history. Roper was noted for his creation of the first motorcycle in the United States. However, in Germany and Europe in 1885, a gentleman by the name of Gottlieb Daimler was credited for his production of the first motorcycle, a whopping 16 years later. So now this bike was powered by a single-cylinder autocycle engine with a spray-type carburetor that was invented by his assistant, William Maybach. This invention was called the Right Wagon, or the riding car. I'll leave that for you history buffs or you machine-savvy mechanics to ponder over. It was until 1894 when a couple of German inventors, known as the Hildebrand brothers, paired with Alois Wolfmuller to produce the first motorcycle available for purchase, which was known as the Motorrad. This was a cool-looking bike with twin cylinders, water-cooled, four-stroke engine of 1488 cc. They continued to manufacture these babies until 1897 in both Germany and France. Since then, a number of motorcycle manufacturers, especially those of European origin, began producing bikes such as the Moto Guzzi, Triumph, Henderson, Panthers, Nortons, and Matchless. In the United States, Indian Motorcycle became one of the most predominant motorcycle producers. And a few years later, Harley-Davidson became one of the main manufacturers of motorcycles. These motorcycles were also used in World War I. But don't go anywhere, because when we Harley-Davidson became one of the main manufacturers of motorcycles. These motorcycles were also used in World War I. But don't go anywhere, because when we return, we'll be talking more about the evolution of the motorcycle here on M2TVXT1. So stay tuned.
So to bring you up to date, some adjustments to the motorcycle had to be made. In the early years of motorcycle history, manufacturers produced motorized bicycles that would adapt to an internal combustion engine. Once these engines became more powerful and the design outgrew the bicycle origin, the number of motorcycle producers decreased. In 1919, a Danish engineer, Jørgen S. Rasmussen, from Saxon, Germany, developed a two-stroke toy engine, which was basically a modified engine, into a motorcycle, and he named this Das Kleine Wunder, directly meaning the small wonder. And it wasn't until 1928 that Rasmussen manufactured the steam-powered vehicles known as the Dampf-Kraftwagen Company. Now this was the beginning of the DKW brand, and by the 1930s, DKW was the world's largest motorcycle manufacturer. In 1932, DKW merged with Audi, Porsche, and Wandsworth to form the Auto Union, and all brands continued until World War II. BMW motorcycles came on the scene in 1923 with a shaft drive and an opposed twin or boxer engine, enclosed with a transmission in a single aluminum housing. So from here, the Germans were at the hub of the motorcycle industry with the NSU Motor Rennwerk AG. NSU was a German manufacturer of cars and motorcycles, and a predecessor to what is now known as Audi. Audi was the largest manufacturer from 1955 until the 1970s, when Honda came on as the largest manufacturer, and that's a title that they have retained to this day. British manufacturers, such as Triumph, BSA, and Norton, held a dominant position in some markets until the rise of the Japanese manufacturers, led by Honda, Kawasaki, and Yamaha, in the late 1960s and early 1970s, that paved the way for the RR's road-ready racers.
Don't you move, because the excitement is just beginning. We'll be right back on M2TVXT1.
Welcome back to M2TVXT1. We're down here at the International Motorcycle Super Show, and we got a lot of things lined up for you today. We're going to talk to some custom builders, we're going to talk to a legend, and we're gonna look at some beautiful bikes. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Jay, and we're back at the International Motorcycle Super Show 2007. And I'm here with the founder and the producer, Bar Hodgsons. How you doing today, Bodge?
We're having a great time, Jay.
So, tell me a little bit about the show. I hear it's grown a lot this year.
Well, this is the Super Show, and it's called the Super Show because it started 31 years ago. And we started with one hall. We are now up to 7 halls, 425,000 square feet, and there's over 1,000 motorcycles here. This is the biggest motorcycle show in North America. So there's not just any one thing here, like if you go to a manufacturer show, you're only going to see new bikes and all that. There's everything here. There's over 70 clubs and associations here, for instance. And they're all talking to people, so it's a big social meet.
Bar, can you explain how this works here?
What you're in is a special display put together by the Canadian Motorcycle Heritage Museum, of which I am the founder. My wife Haiti and myself. So this museum display is called A Century of Motorcycles, and it starts at the start in the far corner with a 1907 motorcycle, and it goes through all the decades to end with a 2007 motorcycle. So we've got a century of motorcycles here.
Wow, that's incredible. We're gonna skip around a little bit here because there was a few bikes as I was walking through that I'd actually like to know a little more about from the man himself.
Love to.
How about this, starting with this bike right here?
This is very special. This is an early 90s Japanese motorcycle, but it's got a special kit on it. These kits were worth about $30,000. Center hub steering. The handlebars actually steer the third wheel over there, and it brakes to that wheel. And this Batman looking sidecar folds up, and it has a full rubber suit that will go right around to your neck and wear your helmet and you're out of the rain. Well, this is a Max. This is NSU. NSU is one of the German companies, and back in the 50s this was their top of the line. It was an NSU Max, and it was a very special bike. It was a 250 single, but it had articulated rods that went from the crankshaft to drive the overhead cam on it, so it ended up going like this kind of.
Yeah.
Very unique bike. This is the legendary MV Agusta. And MV Agusta was a company that won 37 world championships. And they only raced. They hardly made a bike for sale to the public, but they finally relented and made this bike. That's their Grand Prix racing engine dropped in a street motorcycle.
Wow.
So this is a 1975. It's an MV Agusta America. And this was a bike that we picked up and restored. And this was the legendary Canadian film director David Cronenberg's bike. But on this bike, for instance, I hardly had to buy a new part. It's all a matter of repainting, repolishing, replating, and cleaning parts, and resurfacing, and greasing bearings, and reassembly. And
Bar,
thanks for coming, Jay.
thank you so much for your time.